we got a fun one. Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. It is Taxes and Retirement Live. I am your host, Andy Panko. Enough about me, though. Tonight is all about Cody Garrett. Hi, Cody.
Hey there. Good to see you.
So
much, just jamming out.
Yeah, so Cody was playing me some tunes beforehand. He's quite the musician. Hopefully break some off a little bit here. So tonight, not sure what to expect. This is going to be a get to know one of your moderators, all about Cody Garrett. I will be asking interview questions, nothing too serious, nothing too revealing, just kind of some random stuff, so everyone watching can get to know some of the people and the faces and the backgrounds behind the folks that help run and moderate taxes and retirement. One of which is Cody. So thank you, Cody. Jokes. How did I not do jokes? So Cody, I got some jokes for you. I was having trouble with my internet at the farm, so I moved the modem to the barn. Now I have stable Wi-Fi.
There we go.
Yeah. Wah, wah. I was out with my young daughter and ran into a friend I'd not seen in years. "This is Beth," I said, introducing my kid. The person asked, "What's Beth short for?" I said, "Because she's only 3.
with an attitude.
What's she short for? Come on, cut her a break. She's 3 foot tall. And finally, my wife complains I don't buy her flowers. To be honest, I didn't even know she sold flowers.
Ooh,
right.
Everybody's got a side hustle now just to get that Schedule C going.
Oh man, it's 7+% inflation. Got to do something. All right, not that we need it, but let me just do a disclaimer. This video is only general explanations, education, and questions about Cody Garrett. It is not specific tax, legal, investment, or Cody Garrett advice. Before considering acting on anything you see in this video, first consult with your tax, legal, investment advisor, neither which Cody or I am. So thank you. Let me just see, comments are working here. Yes, David Fultz. For those of y'all who don't know, David Fultz is the 3rd moderator in this group with Cody and I. Picking on Cody tonight here first. So, Cody, without further ado, and feel free, people watching, if you have questions you want to know for Cody, don't hesitate to ask. Otherwise, this is just a lighthearted, let's pick on Cody a little bit tonight.
Yeah, big Q&A. Let's go.
Stay for the record. What's your full legal name?
Cody Lane Garrett.
Lane.
Named after, have you ever seen the movie 8 Seconds? The bull riding movie?
I have not.
I was named after Lane Frost, the bull rider. Lane, Cody Lane. And if you say Cody Lane really fast, it sounds like a really Texan name. Cody Lane.
Cody Lane.
It sounds like you're saying like Cody Lane.
Hold on. Mary asked that I hear Cody's keyboard. I don't know. Did she? Did she, Cody?
Here we go. Let's see. Hold on. We got to let's name the tune. Let's name the tune. If anybody gets this one. Anybody name that one?
All right, we're on a delay here. We'll see.
I'll wait for the comments.
I'll let you know.
If anybody can name that tune. Maybe I'll do 3 name that tunes, and whoever wins gets a virtual high five.
All right, Cody Lane Garrett, how old are you?
33. I had to think about that. 33.
What's your social? Just kidding.
Don't tell me that. Oh, okay.
Where do you live?
I live in Pearland, Texas, which is 20 minutes west of NASA in Houston, Texas.
What's NASA? And if anything's too revealing, feel free to tell me to shut up. I don't think anything here is personal info. People won't
transparency
know,
is a core value. Let's go.
Okay, then what is your socials? No, just kidding. Don't tell us that. Who do you live with?
I live with my wife Marissa and my cat named Bear.
And Bear is gray, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes, gray. Yeah, Bear is gray. Maybe I'll pull up a picture of Bear later on.
So my next question was, do you have any pets? Well, there's the answer. Yes, you have a pet cat named Bear.
Yeah.
Did you always live there, or at least in the area? Or another way to phrase it, where did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in Clear Lake, Houston, Texas. My grandfather worked at NASA for 40 years. So we'll probably talk a little bit about cool NASA stuff. My mom trains astronauts at NASA, current astronauts. She's actually in Florida this weekend for the shuttle launch.
Wow. So what do you mean by trains astronauts? What's that involved?
I have no idea, but she teaches them how to get back safely. No, she does something called payload training, which I'm not really sure exactly what that means. But yeah, she what's funny right now is that most of the first of all, she trains a lot of Russian astronauts, and you can imagine that's kind of interesting right now. But a lot of the astronauts going up into space right now are just like rich people who can afford to get on the plane. So what's funny though is that even if you're like mega rich and want to fly into space, you still have to go through astronaut training. So she trains them as well.
Oh, really? So like Jeff Bezos and everyone, they had to go through whatever the training is?
Yeah, they have to be trained just like regular astronauts.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, cool. Good to know.
Well, I don't know if they have I don't know if they have to do like the vomit comet kind of stuff, but they have to go through a lot.
So they can't especially pay a lot of
it's
money.
Mostly safety training. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like how not to die on coming back. I don't know.
It sounds important.
Yeah.
Few guesses. Chariots of Fire. Was that what you played?
No. You want me to tell you what it is? I'm pretty sure.
Teresa Wood says so familiar.
So familiar.
David was stumped.
So stumped. Yeah, I think it was Universal. Like when you're about to watch the movie in the theater, it does that big like that thing.
Yeah, so Cody played that for me ahead of time. I thought it was DreamWorks, which I don't think it is.
You know, I think that
the kid sitting on the moon with like fishing or something.
That's like the. There's that.
That sounds more like it. Yeah. Okay, you might be onto something. Other sort of living question. So, if you could live anywhere else, where would it be and why?
Ooh, definitely in like a wood cabin near the mountains and water. So like I probably near like kind of like if you ever seen the movie like a river runs through it, like Yellowstone River, like that kind of like I would probably go like fly fishing at like 5:30 in the morning, and just sit by the river half the day.
Like off the grid type of cabin, or just the point is you want to be somewhere woodsy as opposed to beachy or whatever.
Yeah, I think like within 30 minutes of a grocery store, but like still like no neighbors within. Like if I yelled really loud, like nobody should be able to hear me.
Right.
Or screamed, depending on what's
going
on.
Sounds dangerous.
Yeah, it does sound dangerous.
Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have a sister named Laura. She lives close by. She's just 2.5 years older than me. She is a speech pathologist, so she helps. One funny thing about speech pathology is we assume that it's like helping kids like get rid of like lisps and help them say their R's, but she also helps like babies like learn how to swallow, like anything to do with like that whole part of your brain. Part of your body.
My younger daughter is 12 and cannot or refuses to learn how to swallow pills. Does your sister teach stuff like that?
You know what's funny? I hate I cannot swallow pills. Like especially like those like the horse pills. Like the largest pill I can swallow are like the Advil minis.
Oh wow.
Like no matter how much water I get in my mouth, like it just like I think
just
like
stuck back there.
No, I think it's like subconsciously it thinks it's like I'm about to eat something like poisonous, and like it just like says nope, not happening. So yeah, like I guess that's one reason I don't like take any medicine like ever unless I'm like really severely, really ill.
Put out and someone slips it to you in a hot dog like a dog or something.
Yeah, that's why I used to like pour powder into like pudding and stuff when I was a kid because we had to crush up the pills into powder.
Yeah, that's what I do with my daughter. Yeah. Question. This might be jumping ahead a little bit. Let me hold this. Someone asked, how long have you two known each other? Let me hold that thought. My next block of questions here is a little bit more about your professional life. So sum up, what do you do professionally?
Cool. So I own a financial planning firm called Measure Twice Financial, not to be confused with Measure Twice Money. So Measure Twice Financial is a financial planning firm. I work specifically with DIY investors who want to be work optional, retire early within 5 years. I work solely with DIY investors, which means they continue to manage their money. And I just provide personalized education to help them make their own well-informed financial decisions and implement it themselves.
And no, you won't even do investment management if someone asks, right?
Correct. If somebody, when people ask me, well, what happens if you're working with a family and they say, I'd love for you, like, can you just do this for me? I simply just refer them to another financial planner.
Okay. And any particular focus of who you work with, stage of life, career, whatever, other than you said work optional, but what does that really mean?
So the biggest thing there is work optional before 59 and a half. So that means like early retirement primarily means figuring out, okay, where am I going to get my retirement income from? Because there's certain, not necessarily like limits, but there's a little bit of friction to getting some access to traditional retirement assets before 59 and a half.
Why? Let's see. When did you get into the profession of what you do now?
So the phrase I use is, so 4 years ago, I didn't know what an IRA was. I thought that was like a old lady named Ira. So I've only been a financial planner for 3.5 years. Before that, I was professional musician for 9-10 years. I did a lot of as a musician. Someone just asked, do I still music gigs? I did a lot of I arranged for Motown records, like Motown gospel records. I've gotten to hang out with people like Alicia Keys and Stevie Wonder and people like that. But I primarily worked in like Motown gospel, so like black gospel music. I was the only white guy in the room kind of situations. But I helped. So they would play something on the piano, whatever, and then I would write it for all the studio musicians to play, like on the recording, on the record, or live. So I also did a lot of like Broadway music directing, Broadway shows, things like that.
Interesting. So actually, let's back up a little bit and unpack that. So you grew up in the area, so you went to high school, presumably somewhere in or around Houston, right?
Right.
Then what after that? Let's take us up through now.
So in terms of like, so I went to high school. Yeah, I went to Clear Lake High School near NASA. Then I got a degree in music theory from University of Houston. So music theory is really like the science. So I consider myself a left brain creative. So very analytical, data-driven thinker, but I've always like worked in like creative spaces. So I got a degree in music theory. So I can't really show you, this is an acoustic, this is a digital piano. But for example, like I understand why like, major chords like this. So like if I ask somebody like, like how does this chord make you feel? People be like, that makes you feel happy. And if you go, they would go, oh, that makes you feel sad. And you go like, ooh, mystery, like I know why, like actually scientifically why certain like music like makes you feel a certain way. So my job as like a music arranger specifically was trying to like align the emotion of what you want somebody to feel with how the music's written.
Okay.
Like that.
Oh, that's interesting. So you went to school, went to college for that, and then what? Graduated college?
Oh yeah. So I went to University of Houston, got a degree in music theory. Then I flew to. So that was like kind of classical music theory, like learning like of course like pretty much everything like until all the way going back to like Gregorian chant, like like all that old school music, all the way through like Gershwin, like early jazz. And then I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston and studied kind of jazz on. So I studied contemporary piano performance and arranging there as well, which is kind of like that's kind of like the Juilliard of contemporary music.
Okay. Oh, good to know. And so you did that, you went to school, finished at some point, then what?
Yeah. So I came back to Houston. I started working as a professional musician. Actually, I worked as a professional musician starting really like 3 years into my first degree. So I was a music director at churches. I would arrange music for churches, play Broadway musicals. Yeah, really, and I played in like considered the #1 wedding band in the nation. I music directed that for a few years. So I played. I pretty much every wedding I played at was at least like $100,000 wedding. Like just the band alone, I think got paid like over 20 grand. 25.
And those were all in the Houston area, or the band was in the Houston area.
Yeah, they actually, and so yeah, it's funny the way my life used to be is I would work, like on a Saturday, I'd drive out. I leave my house at 10 a.m. I get to Dallas, Texas at 2 p.m. I do sound check. I play a gig from 8 p.m. to midnight, then drive back immediately, get home at 4 a.m., then music direct church from 6:30 in the morning all the way till 2 p.m.
Oh man.
So like that was my life before.
And that was most weekends you're doing that, I suppose, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's funny. And I used to make like $350, $400 like every Saturday night playing a wedding gig.
Driving 4 hours each way.
Yeah, driving 4 hours each way and getting paid $400 or something. Yeah,
lugging your stuff, man. Okay.
Yeah. And that was like a really good gig for a musician.
Yeah,
especially that having something consistent like that.
So you did that for how long, and then did you go right from there to learning what an IRA was, or was there something else in between?
So I got married in 2015, so that was about kind of like halfway through. So graduated college like around like 2010, 2011. Got married in 2015. What I really wanted to do is like I was kind of working 8 to 5 and then 5 to 8. I was like because I do like 8. So there was one month I worked 8 to 5 every day as a music director. Like Monday, was it Monday through actually Sunday through Friday. It's kind of the church week is the big day, the big work day, Sunday.
Yeah.
So I'd work there like 8 to 5 during the weekday, and then there was one month I played 31 shows in 1 month. I played 31 Broadway shows in 1 month, or 32, something like that. But I played 2 shows every Saturday and Sunday, plus a musical every Tuesday through Friday as well, on top of working full time. So I didn't get to see my wife very much during that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
And these were Broadway or whatever it's called in Houston, like theater in Houston.
Yeah. So these were so like they do their big show on Broadway,
yeah.
and then they do so like I've done like a few of like the first, like when the Broadway tour like comes through like different cities.
Yeah.
So like I did like Something Rotten, which is like a really hilarious like Shakespeare musical kind of comedy.
Oh, cool.
But what's cool too is I've seen things like I've seen Lion King, like Hamilton, like but from the pit, not on stage, but like from where the musicians are. So I've experienced musicals from the pit, or what they call it, like where the musicians play. But I was playing like the reason that you kind of see if I left for work at like 7 a.m. and then didn't get home until 11 p.m. every day for a whole month. Like I didn't eat really any dinner with my wife for that whole. So I kind of came to the realization, like it wasn't like a big dramatic thing, but I came to the realization like I would love to be able to eat dinner with my wife every day. Like how can we make that happen? So how I discovered personal finance was specifically so working at a church. That like Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University is really popular in churches.
Yep.
I took the DVDs home and watched them with Marissa, and we got out of credit card debt within about a year and a half or so. We had student loans from both of us, especially Berklee College of Music. It was like $40,000 a year, and I got it just like half ride. I still had to pay $20,000 for 1 year at Berklee. Okay. So I paid off student loans, and then kind of said, okay, well now that we don't have any student loan debt, I know the next thing to do is start investing. But just like Dave Ramsey said, like don't invest in something you don't understand. So instead of just taking his advice to own a few mutual funds, I was like, I don't even know what that means. I'm the type of person that if I want to learn something, I read every book, I listen to every podcast 2 times speed. I listen to 3 hours of podcasts a day for about a year.
You go all in when you start something. You go all in. Yeah,
absolutely. So I've gone all in on poker. So like I played poker tournaments in Vegas. Like I've gone all in on jiu-jitsu. I've gone all in on I'm trying to think. Yeah, just a lot of stuff. Music theory, now personal finance. I don't know what I kind of joke with my wife, like she's like I hope there's not a next thing because it's a lot.
So you started with the Dave Ramsey material for learning personal finance. How and when did you then actually get into working in? And you don't have to name the name of the company, but what was your first job doing this work?
So I called my mom one day and she asked, like, what are you up to? And I said, oh, I've been like, I love learning about personal finance. And she said, oh, well, you should call your, actually, he's technically like my godfather. So my godmother is my mom's best friend from high school. She got married to this guy named Joe. And then my mom said, hey, you should reach out to Joe. I think he works in finance or something. Just to, maybe he has some more resources that you could learn from. So I called Joe, and guess what? Joe's been a CFP, a certified financial planner, for 20 years, and he owns his own firm, a fee-only RIA. So he said, hey, if you want to drink out of the fire hose and learn a lot, regardless whether you go into the profession or not, just learn a lot. So he told me to enroll in a CFP education program while I was a professional musician. So the first 3 courses, so like fundamentals, insurance, taxes, or whatever it is, of the CFP curriculum, I did while I was working as a professional musician.
Wow.
And then about three months in, he said, hey, like you should probably start getting your hours so you can actually have the designations. If you actually want to work in the space, you'd probably want the designation. So he gave me a job, just like literally like learning everything from the ground up, like sitting in meetings, like answering the phones, like learning how to trade. I passed the CFP exam before I even had my my like Series 65, my license to give it financial advice.
That's cool. And that was when? What year was this?
Yeah, this was so I started working in the industry in like October of 2018, and then I passed the CFP exam in July of 2019.
Man, it just goes to show, if you're dedicated and put your mind to it, like look how far you've come. You're definitely I don't know if thought leader is the right word, but you're not to say you're not, but definitely sort of the leading edge of the industry with what you do and how you do it in terms of your advice only. Knowledge is second to none. And like you said, 4 years ago, you weren't even in this industry at all, or knew what most of the lingo was, and now here you are. So
yeah. So what actually one of the great things that this has taught me, like, it sounds, try not to be like too cocky, but like the reality of it is, like, I went from being a professional musician to knowing nothing about personal finance to owning a firm at full capacity within 3.5 years. And what that means to me is less that, like, wow, look at what I've done. But what it tells me is that I think that anybody has the capacity, if you have the drive and intention to like make changes to your life. I think pretty much anybody, of course there's privilege involved in, like, and also the emergency savings I had saved up, levels of your own discipline. But it's like, I literally feel like I could just switch careers and within 3 years become a professional whatever, or become a professional whatever. So I think that becoming like financially independent enough to switch careers without a financial consequence, like I actually I can now help families understand that for themselves. Like, hey, like, your life's not over. Like, you're retiring at 55. Like, you still have like you could have a few more careers ahead of you if you really wanted to.
Right. Quick side story. How you said, like, you think within a few years you can be whatever you want to be. My first slap in the face of reality of, no, you can't be whatever you want to be. When you're a kid, you're always taught like you can do whatever you want to do. Sky's the limit. Well, when I think it was 13, I was in middle school, I guess. The group, hip hop group Crisscross, that song Jump, whatever, that song Jump in the early 90s. It was Crisscross. It was two kids.
Wait, hold on. I don't have the right sound for it, but the other Jump, the other Jump. Yeah.
I don't know what I do. But oh yeah, David Lee Roth. Right. Yeah, Van Halen. That's it.
Yeah. So 1984 or 5?
Yeah, probably. So this rap duo, hip hop duo, Crisscross, was two kids, and they had this song called Jump. You'll know if you heard it. That was big at the time, and they were my age, or I was their age. And when they came out, I was 13, they were both 13. And they came out, I was like, wow, okay, here's one thing I can never be at this point, is a 13-year-old pop star. Because like that ship has sailed. I see they're doing it, too late for me. And then eventually you realize, there are things you can't be. Like, at this point, I'm not going to play football professionally. But anyway, just thought, interesting story. That was the first time it ever really hit me. Like, wow, you know what? I can't be anything I want to be with my life.
Well, that's but I do believe that, like, it's really, like, I think most of those things that people say, oh, you can't actually be that, is mostly like physical limitations, not mental. Or
yeah.
Yeah, I do believe that, what's funny about the transition between music and money is there's not that much like difference in like the soft skills. So here's a really good example. So I was, as a professional musician, I wasn't a composer. So I didn't create music from scratch. Like, I could have, but that wasn't my thing. I was an arranger. So what I did is other people would compose music, and then they'd give it to me, and I'd make it better.
Okay. Like,
I'd really improve it. So financial planning is somebody already has like their finances, they bring it to me, and I help them improve it. So like, it's so in a way, like, I didn't go marketing this way, but like, I really, like, in kind of like an orchestrator, like a financial orchestrator in a way of like helping people. Again, you see like all the different instruments in the orchestra are just like all your different like level, like different areas of personal finance. And I'm really like I arrange the music so that like the DIY investor can be like the conductor conducting the music. So
that makes a lot of sense.
I guess that's an extended metaphor I could write an article about.
Right. So here, whoever this was, how long have you two known each other? Now, I think this is appropriate at this point in this conversation. So roughly 2 years. And I think it went something like this. I mean, a little less actually. So I
actually don't remember. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, me neither. But the lineage timeline was something like this. So I started this Facebook group in April of 2020, and you were one of the early joiners. And at some point, I think you reached out just to like chat, because you were in the industry, you were an advisor. Reached out. We had a call
before I had my firm. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely before I had your firm. Yeah, you're still at the other place. This was, I want to say, summer 2020.
Yeah.
Give or take a month.
So right after I got, that's crazy. Yeah, probably even like right before I got my CFP or just gotten it.
Yes, you had not yet earned the right to use the CFP. I think you're still waiting to
Right.
round out your hours, so it was somewhere around there. I don't know. We got to chatting, realized we were both had very similar views about the industry and our approach towards it, and the lead with education and just
Give it
giving
all
away
away.
knowledge and
Right.
teaching. Both despise sales in the traditional sense, and we just very similar views. So you contributed a lot to the group. At some point when the group started getting a little larger than I was willing and able to do myself, I asked you if you want to help out, and you were, selflessly said sure. Help do the tedious work of approving people and screening out bots, like Mr. Dave Fultz here. Same thing. Very thankless job, and greatly appreciative of the time everyone puts in to help keep this group what it is. But that's how we met. I mean, there's no real great like story to it, and then just stayed in touch, over the while. You were thinking about maybe the next step in the industry, as meaning leaving, doing your employee gig. And I think I had kind of nudged you, like, yeah, do it. You could and should do it on your own, based on what you want to do, how you want to do it. You're sharp, based on the goals you wanted personally and professionally out of being in the business. And I think you already had the seed in your head, but I'm not taking credit for that. But I think I sort of nudged you along to do it sooner rather than later.
Like I was kind of telling you, maybe like a year from now, and you're like, maybe 3 months from now.
And looking back now, any regrets with leaving and doing your own thing?
Well, it's really funny to think about, like, in terms of like I think that everybody, there's this feeling of imposter syndrome. But I learned, like, there's this great quote. I mean, I paraphrase it, but it's really that that imposter syndrome shows up when you become a humble expert. So that means you have to be both those things. Like, you have to be an expert, because otherwise you wouldn't be, like, I wouldn't be working this space if I didn't know something about what I was doing. Right. Of course, expert, of course, has multiple levels, I guess. But you also have to have you need the humility to understand that you don't know everything. Right. Yeah. So if you're, you won't have imposter syndrome if you think you know everything. You're the king of the world. But yeah, like, I had this level of not just like imposter syndrome, but it's funny. I had built up 2 years of savings before I launched my firm, and I never used any of that savings because, even before I met you and came into taxes and retirement. So just for everybody here, just like Andy creates a lot of educational content, literally gives it all away for free without expecting anything in return. Like, it's funny, we both kind of use that approach. Kind of, it wasn't a strategy. Again, giving is a way of life, not a strategy. We both just did that from the beginning. But I was doing it in other, like, financial independence groups, again, because, like, I believe the best way to learn is to teach. So, like, as I would learn something, I'd teach it, which would, like, ingrain that's why I've become, like, a lot quicker, and, like, I remember, financial knowledge. But I did that for about 6 months, and within 6 months, I had about, like, 5 people a week were sending me messages saying, "Hey, can you be my planner?"
Yeah. And you weren't even asking for it, right? The people that are out there trying to sell themselves as planners, yeah, they can ultimately get there, but that's such a long grind hurdle where people have their defenses up and want nothing to do with the typical salesperson. Right. You're just out there educating, answering questions. People take it upon themselves to reach out to you, be like, "Hey, can I hire you?" It's
well, that's one of the one of the best things about it is, I mean, not to go too much into, like, the on the business part, but it's like, I never really had to, like, convince. I didn't have that issue of, like, having to convince people or trying to, like, prove the value of what I do, because they had like perceived the value, like, from a second, kind of from a distance for months. And so once they reached out to me, they were kind of, like, fully convinced and had done their research by that point. So, like, again, some people would say, like, "Oh, you're great at social media marketing," but it was never that. It was just like, just give away because you love educating, and it ultimately came back to me, like, tenfold.
Yeah, definitely. So whoever asked that question, that's how we met. First time we met in person was last May 2021. I was taking a trip to Texas to visit a couple clients, one of which was in Houston area. So made a point to swing by Cody and his wife's place while we were down there with my wife as well. Had some cool barbecue. And that was it. So we met there for a few hours. Oh, one of the questions posted in the group from John Kinsey was Texas or Memphis barbecue.
So I would say, like, any barbecue unless there's mustard involved. Like, I don't like the mustard, like, vinegar based, or the mustardy based sauce. One thing, actually the best The best wings I ever had. Again, this is kind of separate from like barbecue. You know, it's funny. Some people go, "We're having a barbecue," and it's like hot dogs. I'm like, no, like that's not barbecue.
Right.
You know, that's like we're having a grill outside. We're making making
Right.
burgers and
We're
hot
heating
dogs.
up food.
Yeah, we're heating up food over like little whatever those little biscuits are.
Yeah.
But the charcoal. So in terms of barbecue, it's only the best wings I've ever had actually had no sauce. Like we're just like dry rub. I think I'm more of like a dry rub meat guy, which
Okay.
I guess Texas barbecue certainly has. So in Texas barbecue, it's a lot of places it's like just dry rub. Like again, like you think Austin, Texas, like it just sits like overnight. You get it, and like it's so the brisket should be good enough. You don't need sauce. But actually, more than brisket, I like ribs a lot.
Okay.
I like ribs, and I like to dip it in barbecue.
Second question from John Kinsey, who posted in the group before. How many pair of cowboy boots do you have, if any?
Just one.
Oh,
I got some for you.
Hope you're about to pull out a pair of boots.
I gotta put on the hat. There you go.
Oh, howdy. And do you have a belt buckle the size of a hubcap?
There we go.
Oh, yes. Now it's a party. All right, good for you.
I can't do the headset very well. With, I don't.
No,
they need to make headphones that like expand out over your hat. Yeah. There you go.
Seriously. All right. Let's keep the fun going. Let me just see what other questions we have here before I get into it. I don't know who this was, but I think I was within the first 25 members. Awesome. Whoever you are, thank you. Massive amount of growth since then.
It's coming like the compounding. It's crazy. It's like 27,000 members or something.
Yeah, it's scary what's happening. All right, a few other questions here I'll get to, but let me go back to my list here. We'll start to get in some of the fun stuff. So that's your professional life. Thank you for sharing. What was the first job you ever wanted to do?
Oh, a few. So it's funny. I never wanted to be like a NASA engineer. Actually, I'll show you some really cool NASA stuff in a sec. But I have one thing. So actually, if you had asked me like junior or senior year of high school, I actually wanted to be a voiceover actor.
Okay.
And this is really fascinating. I got offered the job to be one of the voices of the kids on the Polar Express movie.
What happened?
I would have had to like actually skip a year, like almost a year of high school to take the job.
Oh, just to sit there and like lay down voice tracks for.
Yeah, like so I would have had to drive to Dallas to do voiceover like recording.
Oh, okay.
Like during school. I wasn't homeschooled, so that wouldn't have worked out. But yeah, it's funny. I started joining like all these like voiceover websites, like just to like put my little spin. Again, what's funny is then I'm like my voice. I can't do any of the voices like I could before, but I could do like ET. I could do like I could do bird sounds and all sorts of funky voiceovers.
Yeah. So that was the first like real job, or NASA engineer was the first real job you want to do, not just like.
No, actually, so I actually never wanted to be a NASA engineer, even though like, everybody in my family. I was like never like I don't know why they never told me what they did at work. So maybe I guess I could have become one of those like NASA conspiracy. Like right, your mom doesn't really work on NASA stuff. But yeah, I never wanted to be an engineer. I really chose music out of high school because I felt like that was the only thing I was good at. Other than that, like I actually pretty good at poker. Again, it was one of those like just read every book possible and like watch every video.
Yeah.
But again, that wasn't something I want to make a living in. I think voiceover work, music and voiceover work would probably be my dreams back then.
Okay. What was the first job you actually had?
I worked at Papacitos, which is a Mexican restaurant down here. It's kind of like a franchise. Yeah. Not franchise, but like kind of a chain. Yeah, Papacitos, which was like what's funny, that was more of like the nicer, like the $20 a plate Mexican food.
Okay.
And then my mom was like, okay, I can't just drive you to work. I actually didn't drive a car until I was 21 out of college. I didn't drive a car I didn't have a car or drive a car until then.
Did you have a license though prior?
Yeah, I got a license. It's funny. The funniest story is I signed up for these driving ed classes. But it was one of those things where like they actually pick you up from school, like they pick you up from school and then you kind of drive around and then you park at the place for your parents to pick you up or whatever. But literally they picked me up from school and said, okay, who's driving first? And they were like, yeah, Cody, you go. But the thing is, I think you were supposed to drive with practice with your parents first. I had never practiced before. Literally school had just gotten out. There's kids crossing the street. like, and they literally like, I get into a Mustang and he goes, okay, drive. That was my first experience driving in driver's ed. But yeah, I kind of went down a rabbit hole there. But what was the original question?
What was the first job? The job you had?
Well, so this is funny. So but my mom said, she's like, I can't just like drive you to work all the time, every day, especially when you have to like, you're going all over the place. But so then my second job was working at like the lower class Mexican restaurant that I could walk to, which was called, Casa Ole. So that was like, which means like house, yay.
Ole.
Yeah, house, yay.
And what were you doing? Were you like dishes, serving, cooking?
So I was always a waiter, a server, which I do believe that, I really do believe in that thing that everybody should work in a restaurant, like as a waiter or something at some point. Not that necessarily like when you're 40, you have to, need to go back, but I think it really changes the way you think about that industry, in terms of like, empathy,
appreciation,
gratuity, all those things.
No doubt. I think I might know the answer to this, but what was your favorite subject in school? Music or no?
What's funny is I hated math, but what I realize now is the only reason I hated math is I never had a good math teacher. So I think a lot of people think they hate a subject, but they didn't have the right mentor or the right teacher. My favorite, I think I got better grades in German than I did in English. Sehr gut. But what's really funny is the only time I ever made all A's was in my CFP curriculum.
Okay.
In high school, I had a 3.2, I think, on like a 4 or 5 point scale. Not very good. Like I think what's funny, what's the perfect score on an SAT? Is it 1600?
Used to be 16. I don't know if they changed.
Okay. So it's funny. So they doubled it to like 3,200. See, I can do that math. A 1600. They doubled it to something like 3,200, and then I got a 1600 on it.
So, good for you. Yes.
What's really funny is now I can tell people I got a 1600. Like, whoa, you're so smart. But yeah, I what's funny on the SAT, I think I probably did the best at like just algebra, just like basic math, but I never went to calculus and all those things. Not that I ever need it in my Excel does everything for me at this point.
True. Some fun stuff. I'm sure you have some good answers to this. Who's the most famous person you've ever met?
The most famous person I ever met, but I still don't think is real, is Oprah.
Wait,
Oprah Winfrey.
You met her, but didn't think she was real, or
I still don't think she's real. I met her in person, but she's just like, how you see somebody on TV so much, but when you meet them in person, you're like, you just feel like they're like they should stay in the TV. Like, okay. Actually, another thing, this is kind of funny, is I did a lot of arranging work for Lakewood Church. So I've hung out with Joel Osteen, short, pastor. I don't know why I said short. It's fine because he stands on this big stage and like always has his arms like this and smiling, and everybody assumes he's really tall, but he's actually not very tall. So I thought that was funny. So Joel Osteen, Oprah, like in the music world, like Stevie Wonder. Who's the bass player who used to be the judge on American Idol?
Randy Jackson.
Yeah, Randy Jackson. The guy who always says
dog.
Yeah, dog. Yeah. So I actually auditioned. For him in LA. Didn't get that gig.
For what? What was he doing?
So it was a audition to music direct for one of his artists. He was the producer. Yeah. So
very cool.
Other than that, like I think the other kind of famous people I know are like I know the keyboardist for like pretty much every band, like every big band that you can possibly imagine. So so if I wanted to go to like it's funny, I don't like live music. I don't like going to see live music. I haven't performed music in like 2.5 years, even though I used to perform like constantly. But the only thing I miss about music is the collaboration, which I get from places like, from personal finance. So that's okay.
Yeah. So that was a question I saw here. Do you still do music gigs? I guess the answer is no. It's been 2.5 years since you've. Okay.
I even took the music arranging software off of my computer and stuff. And I surprisingly don't.
Done with you.
Yeah, I'm done with the last 10 years of. But some people have told me like very seriously like that's a waste of talent, because I was. Here's a misconception, is that most people assume that I changed careers from music to financial planning because of the money. They always say, oh yeah, it's hard to be a musician, right? And to make it as a musician, they have this very like starving musician mindset, even as a non-musicians. They think that it's just like, it's a struggle, but I made more money. I made twice as much money as a musician than I did as a financial planner when I changed careers.
Wow. Okay. So it's not just the money.
Right. So not just the money. Yeah. It's more about my time and my family. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which is obviously important.
All
So this should be interesting because you said you don't like live music, but what was the first concert you went to?
Oh, Beach Boys with the Beach Boys with John
Yes.
Stamos from Full House.
Oh, nice.
He
Did
was-
they
he-
close with Kokomo? I hope.
Probably it was at Astroworld, an old like Six Flags that that closed down. You remember? Did you ever go to the Astrodome in Houston?
Never been, but no, I know of it. Yeah.
It was so that's where like did a lot of concerts. But yeah, Beach Boys was my first concert. Of course, it wasn't the original Beach Boys. It was probably in like like very early '90s.
Yeah, I think the lead singer is still there. I forget the guy's name.
Yeah. But John Stamos, it was cool to be like, Uncle Jesse from Full House was
right.
Cool to see on stage.
That's awesome. If you had to describe yourself as an animal, what would it be?
Ooh. Probably an owl.
Why? I have to ask.
Because I never leave my house.
All right, fair enough.
And I like come out at night. No, I just and I hope I'm wise. I think I'm definitely like so my wife and I are both like kind of old souls. Like she really likes kind of like the not necessarily like Little House on the Prairie, like those kind of like that kind of lifestyle. Not necessarily like living on a farm, but those are the types of books she reads. Those are the types of movies we watch. Like we don't watch anything like PG-13 and up. Well, at least not together. Like that's more my thing. But it's just we live like a very like simple, actually very traditional life. Like my wife is as a stay-at-home. We don't have kids, but a stay-at-home spouse, which a lot of people like assume that's like a bad thing. Like no, like she loves it. Like that was her passion from the beginning, is to really take care of the home and take care of me and our future kids if we have kids or adopt. So I think it was we're just very traditional lifestyle, but we're kind of old souls. Like I literally I could just like sit in a rocking chair and watch PBS all day and I'd be happy.
And yell at kids to get off your lawn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This one I gave you the teaser of earlier today. What would you sing if you were doing karaoke?
Ooh. I don't know. It's funny. What's hilarious is I worked in music for 10 years, but I don't know the lyrics to any song whatsoever.
Like I think the music.
Well, I was thinking like the we're talking about Sweet Caroline. Like I just know the dun dun dun. Like that's the only part I would sing when I was playing in the wedding band. I cannot sing the lyrics to any whole song.
Okay.
Which is crazy. So I definitely need the screen there.
Right.
I'd be like, what? Those are the lyrics to the song?
Or at least what genre? So maybe not a specific song. What genre would you like to do?
I think so. My two favorite genres. One doesn't have any lyrics, which is like big band, like old school big band. Well, I guess some of them have jazz lyrics, but I would say Motown. It's like Stevie Wonder. I'd probably sing like "Isn't She Lovely" or like one of those Stevie Wonder songs.
That's a good one.
Or "Superstition" or something.
Or "Night Shift" by the Commodores.
Purple Rain. No.
Do you collect anything? And this one I gave you a teaser earlier, and I said, do you collect anything other than human femurs? Obviously,
cat whiskers. We put all of our cats like whiskers that fall off on the ground. We put them in a plastic baggie. Actually, I don't even know if we do that, but we kind of joked about it, and I don't know. We might actually have a bag of them somewhere, which is kind of creepy. But
it's probably better to say you collect femurs, human femurs.
Yeah. But so I do want to show you something that's like I asked Marissa this question. I said, "Do I collect anything? Like, is there something I'm not aware of that I collect?" And she goes, "Well, like you have a lot of like NASA stuff." So I want to show you some like really cool memorabilia from NASA.
Do it.
So I have like dozens of these things, which are like awards and like kind of thank yous that my grandpa got when he worked at NASA for 40 years. This is dated 1968. This is a, let's see, an appreciation for your contribution to the Apollo Saturn project. The Apollo 8 crew carried this medallion on man's first flight to the moon. So this little coin here was on the first flight around the moon with what's his name, Frank Borman and all those people. And then, all right, and then this is actually one of like the cool ones too. So everybody knows that Columbia, like that shuttle, is not around anymore, but this flag was flown aboard Space Shuttle Columbia on its very first flight, the first manned orbital flight of the space shuttle. And so that flag is like was actually on the flight. So I've got like, dozens of these things, and it's a lot of. I think those are things I probably shouldn't get rid of anytime soon.
Right, and it's from
unless I can turn it into an NFT. Yeah.
Oh yeah, then do it. They're all throwing off like some sort of weird gamma rays or something, right? From having lived in space.
Yeah, that's so, probably. I shouldn't sleep too close to them. Yeah.
Pulsating things into your what are 3 items you take with you on a desert island?
Wait, a desert island? Like, or you mean like just like alone?
Like a deserted island.
I was like, that would suck. You're surrounded by water, but it's just like dry sand. Buckets? I don't know.
On a deserted island, sorry.
So if I was on a deserted island, I think I would definitely need like podcast, audiobooks. Like I think I would need like I guess all I'd need is like, power to charge my phone. I think like I'd be completely fine just having like food and knowledge, food and education is like the 2 things I live on.
Did you ever, not to get off track, but did you ever see there was an episode of The Twilight Zone, the original one, with was it Burgess Meredith, the guy who played Mickey and Rocky, where all he wanted to do was be alone with his books. He had like rooms and rooms full of books, and that was all he wished for. And some sort of like end of the world scenario happened where he happened to be locked in like a safe bunker, and he got out and the world was like destroyed. There was no human life whatsoever, and he got his wish. He had his room full of books, and his glasses fell, and he stepped on them and broke them.
Oh crap!
And like that's how the episode ended. So this guy is now like,
Oh, he really wished he had an audiobooks then. Yeah,
exactly. Well, yeah, and a charger. Like
one of my dreams. So you talk about that dream house, like or like where if I could live anywhere, it would be a wooden cabin, like near the near mountains and water. But I've always wanted to have one of those like libraries that like you pull the book and the secret.
Oh yeah.
Like so I really want like the all wooden, like what is it, mahogany or whatever. Like I want like the big wooden, like the room with like a really nice chair and like tons of books. Like that's my dream. What's funny about that is like I don't think I've gotten through like a whole paper book in like years. Like I get like halfway through and I'm like,
lose interest. Move
on
to
like
the next
audio
thing.
Better. You can't. I need to learn how to read 2 times speed physical books.
Right, just like you do with podcasts.
Yeah.
What's one thing you'll never do again? It's a weird one, but
eat the hottest hot sauce in the world.
Okay.
Here's a good story for you. So I tried the hottest hot sauce in the world. Did we talk about this before?
I'm not sure.
So I tried the hottest hot sauce in the world at the it's like the Texas Hot Sauce Festival. Okay, you literally just go to a festival and try hot sauces. Like that's a thing.
That sounds dangerous.
It's better than like the garlic festival or something like that. But they, I went up to this place. Like there were literally paramedics and like a firefighter truck behind the booth, and so the guy's like, "This is the hottest hot sauce in the world." I was like, "Cool, let's do it." The worst idea ever is they had scoop chips, like the Tostito scoops.
So get a lot of that sauce.
So this is what's amazing. So like right before I try it, they go, just to let you know, 1 drop of this hot sauce will ruin a whole pot of chili. I scooped it. This is okay. You want to be really smart with like, just being in the right place at the right time so I tried it. So 3 of us tried it at the same time. One person like couldn't see, one person couldn't talk, and I couldn't feel my legs within like 30 seconds
from eating it.
From eating this hot sauce. Like your body just like kind of shuts down. So I don't remember how many like Scoville units or whatever it was, but it's a ton.
Off the charts.
I think it's like straight up like whatever the capsaicin, whatever that comes from. But this is like the best, like the right place at the right time. The guy right behind us was selling ice cream.
Okay.
And like, if you want to,
probably intentional.
Yeah, this is what was amazing about it is like, you want like you just need to get rid of that like that feeling as quickly as possible. I took my wallet out of my pocket and literally threw it at him. Like I was just like, take whatever it got.
Right.
But what's even worse is that I ate the ice cream and it didn't help whatsoever.
Oh man.
So yeah, the one thing I wouldn't do again. I'm trying to think of what else I wouldn't. I don't know. I didn't like. I had a bad experience in Hawaii, so I'm maybe not going back to Hawaii would be one of the other things I won't do again.
Was it like in the Brady Bunch where you stole that little tiki thing and then you got haunted because of that?
I just got like sick to my stomach. When your stomach's in bad shape when
Oh,
you're
yeah,
traveling,
yeah.
that's like the worst feeling ever.
Yeah, no,
You're
definitely.
just like, I just want to be home.
Few more, then we'll wrap. There's
Sure.
a handful of questions from other folks
Cool.
here. What's your favorite hobby,
Hobby? What's that?
if you have any?
No, I think somebody asked a question earlier that I'll probably answer, but like hobby, yeah, the only things I really care about right now are learning, teaching, and going on walks.
Okay. Favorite band, if you have one?
My favorite band in high school was Dream Theater, like progressive,
Right, yeah.
progressive rock, progressive metal music. Um, yeah, that's again, like I don't listen to that much. Like if I listen to music, it's like to focus, not to just
Right.
enjoy.
Favorite book?
Ooh, I'll just go for like business book. I would definitely say it would be like the E-Myth, just understanding how you have to be a technician, a manager, an entrepreneur in your business to make it successful. The second to that is a book I read after the fact, after I was doing everything in the book, which was called The Go-Giver, which is about just giving everything away without expecting anything in return, actually being the best kind of marketing strategy for business.
Okay. Worked out well.
Yep.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie is the first foreign film I ever saw. And what was hilarious is that I went to the theater. My mom's like, "Oh, it's a foreign film. There's going to be subtitles." I was like, "Why would we go to a movie to read? Like the whole point of going to the movie is so I don't have to read the book." And it was so my favorite movie is Life is Beautiful, that Italian film.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. Favorite food? Did we touch on the favorite food?
Yeah, favorite food. If my stomach were always up to it, it would be definitely Mexican food, like cheese enchiladas, chips and salsa.
Okay. Sort of related, but this was about the desert island. What's your favorite dessert while we're on food?
It's funny. I always, you know how you learn it. You're like two S's.
2 scoops.
You want more. Yeah. So yeah, favorite dessert is I don't like dessert. And what I mean by that is I'm a one, like I like the flavors, but I'm a one bite dessert guy. But after every dinner, I crave chips. Like I can be completely full on dinner and eat like a whole bag of like, Doritos or Cheetos, whatever. Yeah. So I think my favorite dessert would be I probably, if I actually had to pick a real dessert, it would be something simple. It would just be like a piece of cookie that big with like a little thing of vanilla ice cream on top.
With Doritos on top of it.
Yeah, with Dorito crunch. Yeah. Powder.
All right. This one could be a little weird. Favorite smell?
Ooh, fire. Like for real.
Okay.
I love this. It's funny. Trying to even think, like, how there's different like fire smells, of course, right? But I don't know. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I guess it'd be fire.
Okay. And the last two, these I stole from James Lipton from Inside the Actors Studio. They were some of his questions he'd wrap with.
I love it.
What sound or noise do you love?
Ooh, sound.
Or noise.
Ooh, gosh, that's a really good one. That's one that like you have to go like three questions deeper and then like start like get your tissues out. Sound. Okay, let me think about that. Sound that I love. It wouldn't be anything electronic. Like I hate, I don't like phone calls. I don't like dings and I don't like distracting noises. I think. You know what? My favorite sound is a purring cat.
Okay.
Because it means that they're really typically in a good mood.
Yeah.
That they like being with you.
And I think we might know this. So you said you have a cat named Bear. Yeah. You love the sound of a purring cat. You're a cat, not a dog person. Okay.
Yeah. And as you ask more questions, I'm going to pull up a picture of Bear.
Follow up to my other question. This is also straight from James Lipton. What sound or noise do you hate?
Sound of somebody selling you permanent life insurance.
Oh, no. Come on. You had to go there. No.
I know we gotta put that in there somewhere. I guess. For me is it's listening listening to complex music while I'm trying to do deep work. Like I can't listen to music that like has a lot of movement in it or words, because it like just because so one thing to tell everybody is that like when I listen to music, like most people listen to the music and they're like listening to the, like, oh, nice song, and I listen to the lyrics and stuff. When I listen to a song in my head, I'm analyzing the chords as they're going by.
So you can't just like
So
casually listen to music.
yeah, so I can listen to it. I can listen to a song and play it back.
Yeah.
Like that. I have that level of kind of technical, obsession with music.
Okay. And final question for me. This is also from James Lipton. We sort of touched on it, I guess, but what profession other than your own would you like to attempt? If any.
Yeah, you know what? I'm really I'm fascinated with cognitive behavioral therapy, like CBT, not CBD, but CBT.
Yeah.
So I think I would go into more like so I would probably do like psychology, and also just understand how like the brain. This has to do with like kind of my own issues with like stomach stuff. Is like I'm really fascinated with like the brain gut relationship. So I'd probably go into like how like things like psychology, anxiety, like those things like actually like change the way your body like reacts. Yeah. So yeah, I'm fascinated with just how. Not just actually, I'm less fascinated with how people consciously think than how they subconsciously think.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I had. Let's see.
Here, here's a picture of a let's see. Share screen, window. All right, here you go. So here's Bear.
It's a sick coat he's got right there.
You can tell where I spend my money. No, that's just, it's a funny picture that somebody sent us.
Is he really wearing that, or is that a Photoshop?
No, that's a photo. No, that was a gift we got from my sister-in-law.
Okay.
But I thought that was kind of a funny thing.
All right. Have you been to space camp?
No, it's funny. I don't think I ever went to camp. Like I've never been to the camp where like you get on like the big blob and you like you jump into the water. Like I never did like the archery camp or like the throw the axes or anything yet. It's like I never went to space camp, but I definitely went to a lot of like music like band camp kind of stuff.
Here's a bit of an inside joke. I don't know who this is from, but when are you going to have a real planning practice?
Not until I have 150 clients, which I don't think I'll ever have.
So for people watching, Cody was loosely on the periphery, got involved in a fairly heated LinkedIn exchange with another advisor who's fairly well known within the advisory industry about making a lot of money and working very few days. And he sells that process, if you will, and knowledge to other advisors so they can make a lot of money and not work a lot of days. And he charges a % of assets. So I don't know how I got started. There's a post about charging flat fees, and he chimed in and it ultimately said, find me a real advisor with a real practice and define that as at least 150 clients and at least one employee to further discuss it, as if to say, if you don't have at least 150 clients and at least one employee, you're not a real advisor and you have a real practice. So there's this long heated exchange, not just me. I mean, I was one of the ones leading the counterpoint, but
somebody tagged me. Somebody said, Cody, would you fit hey Cody, does this apply to you? And I'm like, I said I'm not a real advisor, and I don't have a real practice because I don't manage investments, and I don't have 150 clients. I only serve 22 families a year.
Right. 20. Yeah. And someone else tagged me and said, "Would I fit?" And then I said, "No, obviously I'm not a real advisor. I don't have a real practice either." And then things just kind of spiraled to an unfortunate place after that. But anyway, what else we got here?
There's a lot of good questions up there.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm kind of delayed in going through the questions here. Cody, what would you describe a typical day looks like for you?
So I attempt to wake up around like 5:30 in the morning. First thing I do is I eat grapes and oranges, and then 30 minutes later I eat a bagel with cream cheese and a piece of toast with scrambled egg. literally every day.
Every day. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, very structured. I drink like a few things of water.
How many grapes? Do you count the grapes?
No, probably like my wife probably does when she puts them in the container for me. Yeah, probably like like a whole orange and like 7 grapes. I don't know, something like that.
Green, red,
Kind of switch
black?
off. I
Okay.
think green have more flavor though.
Yeah.
Sweeter. But so I do that, and then I do kind of like deep work. So Mondays and Tuesdays are really focused on content and education, content creation, and distribution. Really creating more educational content. Wednesdays and Thursdays is like really focused on financial planning, and then Friday is kind of like whatever either more content or financial planning, whichever needs more finishing up during the week. But the kind of the average day is the breakfast. So I'll do work for like maybe 3 hours. I go on a 45-minute walk, come back, typically eat lunch, do like a couple more hours of work, and then I go on another 45-minute outdoor walk. And then I actually eat dinner around like 4:30 or 5, and then in bed by 8:30 or 9. Again, very like just kind of an old man in a young person's body kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, very very structured. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Like I'm going to like 4 or 5 different conferences this year. So yeah, traveling, going to conferences, that kind of throws off my groove.
Right.
But
yeah.
I like. It's funny. I like spontaneity for me is like going to the park, like throwing the baseball with Marissa, like just we're very simple, frugal, but frugal not because we don't want to spend money, but like spending more money doesn't provide more value to our lives. So that's why we have probably a higher savings rate.
Yeah. And you had said you only work with 22 clients a year. So very intentional about the business you built. You don't want a 40, 50, 60 hour week of doing financial planning, right? You
Just
want
10
a
hours,
amount of clients. Yep. So you can enjoy and do things with the rest of your time, like making content, like going for walks, like eating grapes and oranges.
Yeah, it's like I spend 10 hours a week doing financial planning. Like doing like deeper financial planning work. I only work with 2 families a month, but at the same time, I spend I looked at my phone. Like I spend about 3.5 hours a day on social media, not just like looking at cat pictures, but like primarily again just having like just engagement about personal finance.
But that's all part of what you do and your presence and your education and, to some extent, your business development as well, right? So it's not like you're messing around.
Yeah, I have 3 businesses I'm working on at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. And social media is a huge part of all 3 of them. So
got
it. How do you like Houston?
It's fine. I think now that now that I have a 100% remote business, we're definitely here because if our family didn't live here, we'd probably move. Our family's here. But I think at some point I do want to like move again somewhere like more like remote, not necessarily like off the grid, but within 30 minutes of a grocery store, like really fast, like gigabyte internet, like really fast internet, and grocery store, and like just I think nature. Like I think I need more nature in my life, and not like we have neighbors who like play like the really loud music like every Saturday night, and it's like I'm kind of over that.
Right. This is from a while ago, but speaking of your generous spirit, any ETA and measure twice planners.
Yeah.
So what does this mean, measure twice planners?
Yeah. So so I originally started doing financial education through Measure Twice Money, which was an educational art. Like I wrote educational articles on a blog. Then that turned into because I'm at full capacity with financial planning, kind of deliberately. My financial planning process, I don't use planning software for any of the exported. I know that kind of. We don't have to talk too deep again, because this is mostly not advisors here in the group. But I wanted to show DIY investors how to create their own financial plan, like using like mine, because I don't use any like proprietary software. Like I use Word, Excel, and PDFs for my planning. So I want to teach DIY investors on how to create their own comprehensive plan for 2 things. One is like certainly it'll provide value to them, aligning their money with what's important to them. Second to that, it's really going to. I want to show the DIY community that there's more to financial planning than choosing investments.
Yeah.
So I created Measure Twice Money to like just to show people how to review their financial documents. Like you've seen some of those things on Wednesday Night Live. But Measure Twice planners came out of financial advisors are saying, hey, I own my own firm and I don't have a process for financial planning. Like, can you teach me? Can you like show me how to can I get I want to learn that too. So I decided to like kind of separate. I want to teach DIY investors on how to create a comprehensive financial plan using my process, but I also want to teach financial planners on how to I want to teach them my entire process, but from like a financial planner's perspective of how do I communicate this financial topic to the families I serve with planning. So it's kind of like there's Measure Twice Money and then like kind of an added layer for Measure Twice Planner. So I've separated them into separate businesses.
So any ETA on that?
Yeah, the ETAs, I was going to do articles and videos and podcasts like all at the same time, like each week do at least one article, one video, so on. But I've decided I'm going to like front load all the articles. So I'm doing 88. I have 88 planning topic areas outlined to cover. And then those are going to become like naturally, those will become the outline for, first of all, like I can outline it to a book, but secondary to that, I'm going to outline, those articles are the outline for a video course on how to create a comprehensive financial plan. So I want to create one for DIY investors and then add additional chapters for the course for financial planners. So I'm going to start video at the end of the year. So I think 2023 is when like really that's like the quote unquote, the product will be available. But what's one thing there is just quickly is that all of the information I'm giving away for free, but like the video courses, just because of the amount of time and money that it takes to really build a good video course, like that's going to be the only paid offering, through Measure Twice Money and Measure Twice Planners. Okay. And maybe some future webinars, again, just going like deeper one-on-one.
Yeah, that's fair. Makes a lot of sense. Bruce asks, if someone wanted to learn more about financial planning, any approach you would suggest, qualifications, EA agent, enrolled agent, etc.
So 100%, I just personally, I would only want to work with a financial planner with at least the CFP or CHFC or, one of those designations. If you check out Andy's recent podcast on kind of like, what are these letters after the names, these people's names, I would only work with somebody who does truly comprehensive financial planning. If they advertise their planning in terms of like, how well they can invest for you, like that, I don't believe in that approach. So truly comprehensive financial planning, they have to be tax focused because nearly every movement of money has a tax consequence or a specific exclusion. So yeah, I would do CFP plus EA or CFP plus CPA. But again, CPA is a little kind of wishy because usually if somebody has a CPA, they were a CPA first and then they kind of added the planning. So again, I'm much more focused on, I want a truly comprehensive financial plan, meaning that they're going to review every financial part of my life, not just investments.
Yeah. Great. And Bruce, there's lots of ways to get this info. It all depends. Like if you're looking specifically to get the CFP yourself, then there's certain courses you have to take through certain institutions. But if it's just like learning stuff, frankly, podcasts, blogs, this not to toot, the channel here, but this Facebook group, you can just soak up so much. All this knowledge is out there for free. People readily give it away. It's not all prepackaged and neatly delivered necessarily, but you just soak it all in, and eventually the big picture forms, and it's like, boom, wow, like I know this stuff.
What I would say there is, I even made a kind of a picture of it, is that Google is not a financial plan. So just if a lot of people ask me like, what's the value working with a financial planner? I can just learn all this stuff myself, right? Is that what you can find online? I'll kind of go like so you can see both my hands. So what you can find online is like all of like the quantitative information, like all the rules, all the concepts, all the different like kind of strategies and opportunities that are just kind of general. Like that's over here. That's quantitative financial information. Then there's something only which is your qualitative, your values, objectives as a family, like your desired outcomes, like what you want your money to actually like supplement, right? Or like what you want it to support. So really, though there's these two things, there's quantitative and qualitative. Thing is, Google, like you can't just keep Googling until those all become aligned, right? So I believe that the value of working with a financial advisor, really a financial planner in my case, is really they're the bridge. They're the ones who really bridge the gap between your quantitative, your like comprehensive financial ecosystem, and like what matters to you as a family. And what I would say too is that if there's a lot of financial planners who are like really focused on what life, like not life planning and I'm not giving like life planning a bad name, but just kind of like they're really focused on like how money makes you feel, but they're not very technical. And then there's like the very technical, but they don't really they ask about your money before they ask about your family, which is like a big red flag. So again, you have to find somebody who can really really comfortably bridge that gap. And I don't think that you can perfectly bridge that gap. First of all, I don't think you can do it by yourself without like a third party. Even me, like I wouldn't be my own financial planner. I'll probably get my own financial planner at some point. But even working with somebody who claims they're fully solely objective, they still have their own biases, and some of those like even cognitive biases, but also the I was saying just they have their own they have their own like financial baggage coming with them when they're giving you advice. So I think it's great to have a third party like our second opinion. That's why my firm is called Measure Twice, because I really help people like measure twice before they make that really important financial decision. So yeah, think about finding somebody who can be that bridge and understands both sides of the equation.
Cool. Well said. We'll wrap up here soon. Anyone in your family musicians?
Nobody, just me. Well, just
Cody.
me a few years ago, apparently.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people, like within like 6 months of like music, like leaving the professional music world to money, like some people will tell me, like, "Do you still remember how to play piano?" Or like, "Oh, you used to be a musician," and that kind of hurt a little bit. I was like, "Oh man, that sucks." It's like you used to be a musician. It's like when people say like you used to be a Marine. It's like
right.
That whole like you're a Marine, you're
always a Marine. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, nobody in my family is a musician except for me.
All right, 2 more here. What's your favorite app outside of social media and podcast audio?
It's called Brain Toss. So the Brain Toss app. What's really cool about this, I'll actually bring it up. So it looks like this, Brain Toss, and I can just click the microphone and start talking, and then I press the airplane, the little the paper airplane, and that just emailed me. That just emailed the video, that audio recording to myself. So if I'm on a call, I can just be like, there's something like I have a really cool idea for an article. I'd be like, I can just click it. I can say, write an article about blah, blah, blah. And then I send it. So when I get back to my computer, I have an email from myself, and it translates it to text as well.
Oh, that's great. So I was going to say, it's basically just like the voice recorder, but emails it, but it also does.
It emails you it emails the audio file to you immediately. You can do audio, you can take a picture, or you can text.
Wow. That's a great idea.
It's one of those like, $3 apps that, forever.
Well worth it.
Yeah.
And finally, what are your favorite podcasts? I guess business or otherwise.
Cool. I'll just read them off to you. The ones that I'm listening to now. Probably a lot. The podcast that I listened to before as I was becoming an advisor are Radical Personal Finance with Joshua Sheets. Choose FI was really how I found like the FIRE community. Choose FI. The Mad Fientist. I don't know if you've heard of that one, Andy. Mad Fientist. The Money Guy Show with Bo Hansen, Brian Preston. There's one Scott Frank and James Canola called Real Personal Finance, which is pretty good. So now the ones that I listen to as a financial advisor, which some of you might find interesting, is Kitsis and Carl, which is Michael Kitsis and Carl Richards. The Perfect RIA, which is the podcast of that, kind of what we were talking about earlier. The kind of like how to build a lifestyle practice. And then there's one called You're a Financial Planner Now What? That the Financial Planning Association does. There's one that's great. I think that you'd probably like. It's called The Human Side of Money with Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser, which is specifically about like that, how we think about money is way more important than kind of what we do with our money. Risk Parity Radio, which is Frank Vasquez, he's in this group and also in the Choose FI group. He has really interesting asset allocation thoughts. XYPN Radio, the Mark the Mark Struczewski podcast, which is like a productivity podcast. The Healthy Happy Human podcast, which is like really great like fitness and health podcast. Financial Advisor Success podcast, Michael Kitsis, which I've been interviewed for, so go check that out. The Joy of Procrastination, which is a Dan Sullivan podcast. The Gary V Audio Experience. Retirement Tax Services. What's Essential? There's a lot. I'll finish off here. Retirement Planning Education with Andy Panko.
Oh, what? Never heard of it.
Yeah. Retirement Planning Education with Andy Panko. The Tim Ferriss Show, the Minimalist Podcast, the Measure Twice Money Podcast. You should listen to that because I think I've heard of that one too. And then there's two that I haven't checked out yet. Is Delve Into Money. I don't know about that. And there's actually one that just started with another CFP called the Atomic Retirement, which is really cool. Really just, again, more education, free education. So yeah, a lot of podcasts.
Cool. Well, thank you, Cody, for being so open and honest and sharing so much about yourself. Hopefully people got a kick out of it.
Yeah, man.
I'm
I'm excited to see David in one of these. I need to see David's face.
I've never seen David's face.
Oh wow.
I take that back. His old profile picture, I think, had his face in it. He was like serving soup or something. And I think I saw a picture of him in a newspaper article he sent me from 10 years ago or something. Cool. That'll be a fun one. All right, that's it. Thank you. Let me get this off. Thank you very much, Cody, for your time. Hopefully everyone watching enjoyed. I know this was a little off the beaten path, but this was one of the months where there's 5 Wednesdays in a month. So I figured let me throw in a freebie here.
And there's 5 Wednesdays next. No, never mind. No,
I don't remember when it is, but yeah.
Hey, yeah. One thing is that so in two Wednesdays from now, I'm going to be doing the 7 options for health coverage before Medicare. That's going to be my topic. If you're interested in 2 weeks from now.
So 2 weeks from today is the Cody Garrett Show, talking about the 7 options of healthcare before Medicare. Next week will be a mailbag episode.
Cool.
Week after that, I don't remember. But anyway. All right. Well, good. Thank you all. Thank you, Cody. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
We'll see you around.
All right. Take care, y'all.